When it came to Burt Reynolds' career, he can be described as cool, sophisticated, and tough. From his start on TV in the 1950s to the present day, he starred in 100+ movies and lots of TV appearances. And since he passed away recently at the age of 82, and since I met him several years ago, I thought I remember his career. In this video, I'm not going to talk about his health issues or anything else because that's not what I think about when I think of Burt Reynolds. I think about his art and his legacy. And that's what I want to discuss today. I met him when I was 16. There was a screening of 3 of his movies. We didn't talk much, but when we posed for a picture together, he had a tough grip. He signed my copy of Smokey and the Bandit saying simply, "To Mark, your friend, Burt Reynolds." Well, friend, this is for you. Firstly, his career started out as a football player, but a knee injury ruined his chances of being a football star. Instead, he turned to acting, appearing in TV shows like Alfred Hitchcock Presents and Perry Mason. He then turned to movies. His first films in the early 60s were small parts, like in Angel Baby, followed by Armored Command with Howard Keel. He would appear in several episodes of Gunsmoke as half-white, half-Native American Quint. His career would be followed by other films that no one really knows about for some reason, including Fuzz, Impasse, Skullduggery, and Navajo Joe, to name a few. But it was Deliverance in 1972 that put him on the map.
You don't beat it. Don't beat this river.
And the rest is history. There's been a misconception that I've been hearing from a few people that Burt never had any good movies. That's simply not true. I can name 5 on one hand. Smokey and the Bandit, Deliverance, Boogie Nights, The Longest Yard, and from what I've been hearing, The Last Movie Star. There are tons of other movies in which he starred in that no one seems to be watching, including Hooper, about the world's greatest stuntman, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, where he sings with Dolly Parton, Stroker Ace, where he's an egocentric race car driver who sells his talents to a restaurant chain, Sharky's Machine, in which he's a private investigator, and All Dogs Go to Heaven, in which he voices a dog named Charlie, who gets a second chance at life. And out of his entire filmography, those are the ones I recommend, or at least the ones I've seen so far. One of the best qualities of Burt Reynolds is that even if the movie was bad, he at least had fun with it. At least he tried to make that film, whatever it may be, work. Unlike most people who sign up for a movie they don't like and then just try to get through it without any enthusiasm in their performance. Even though some of his movies haven't won critics over, he has said time and time again that he is very proud of his work. If a movie was bad, he'd just make fun of it and move on. For example, there's an episode of Archer in which he guest stars in it as himself, and the main characters said that his movie Operation CIA inspired him to be a secret agent, and Burt said that movie was god-awful. He also said, "I got to fight a boa constrictor and he gave the best performance in the movie." Another example was Sam Whiskey with Angie Dickinson. He said it was way ahead of its time, I was playing light comedy and no one cared. Now, just like everybody else, I've been having my own Burt Reynolds movie marathon. I know that now, by the time you're seeing this, people have already stopped doing that. I was one of the many people who had a Burt Reynolds movie marathon, just like everybody else was when we found out that he passed away. So, here are the movies that I'd recommend. Smokey and the Bandit. In it, he plays the bandit, who he and his partner, a trucker played by Jerry Reed, are transporting bootlegged whiskey, and the only one who stands in their way is Sheriff Buford T. Justice, played by Jackie Gleason. It's got comedy, car chases, and romance between Burt and Sally Field. It's like the Blues Brothers, but made 3 years before the Blues Brothers. It's a masterpiece, no doubt about it. Deliverance. If Smokey and the Bandit showed off his playful side, then Deliverance showed off his dramatic side. 4 men are canoeing down a river that's about to be blocked off by a dam. It's all fine and good until they become targets by men who want to kill them. It's powerful because the characters are recognizable and relatable. Each one is different from the other. In Burt Reynolds' case, he's the adventurer, the one who loves to hunt and loves the thrill of adventure. Even when one of the guys is killed, he's still blood hungry. Well, maybe not blood hungry, but he can be full of himself sometimes.
We get connected up with that body, and the law, this thing's gonna be be hanging over us the rest of our lives.
It's harrowing, disturbing, and dark, yet beautiful in its scenery and how we should appreciate nature. Also, the actors did their own stunts in this movie. It's a thriller about survival, and it's a classic. In Belonka's yard, Burt plays a football star who is arrested for stealing a car even though he claims to have borrowed it. The warden, played by Eddie Albert of Green Acres fame, asks him to coach a football team that they just happen to have in the prison. But instead of Burt coaching the team to win for him, Burt encourages the team to win against them. Particularly the guards of a prison, who they also happen to be football players. In fact, I'm actually surprised that Eddie Albert could play a character who is so cold-hearted and blood-hungry. It's not just about survival, but it's about the thrill of revenge in a harmless way. Football. In Boogie Nights, which had him in a supporting role, he plays porn director Jack Horner, who wants to make his movies an art form. He asks Eddie Adams, played by Mark Wahlberg, to be in his movies and make him a star. Jack believes that porn movies just get to the sex before the quote-unquote story even ends. He wants the audience and the quote-unquote characters to be interested in where the film is gonna go next.
No. This is a film I want them to remember me by.
He's an eccentric director, a visionary. Even if he's in a business that's considered dirty by many, he believes that there's some value in it. And even when he's being asked to shoot his movies on videotape instead of film, he declines it at first because film is just too special to waste it on a VHS tape. It was a dramatic performance that won him a Golden Globe and earned him his only Oscar nomination. Cannonball Run follows a group of people who are trying to win the Cannonball Run, a cross-country race that spans from New York to California. It was actually inspired by an actual event of a real, unofficial cross-country race. It's a little goofy for my taste, but for some reason, I keep coming back. It even earned a sequel which added Jamie Farr, Ricardo Montalban, and Shirley MacLaine to the mix. Another movie I like, but I do acknowledge that not very many people will like it, is Cop and a Half. The story involves a kid named Devin who wants to be a cop. He accidentally gets his chance when he becomes the witness to a murder by a mob boss who's like a singer from the 50s. It's weird. He has information that the cops want. The head cop, played by Burt, is constantly pressuring him into giving him the information. But Devin won't give him or the authorities the information unless they let him become a cop. This sets off the typical buddy cop cliches, and it's not a good movie. I mean, like, it's not... Okay, it's not bad, but there's something about it that keeps drawing me in. I can't really explain it. There's just something about it that makes me want to come back. I don't know, maybe it's the fact that it's a different turn for Burt Reynolds' tough attitude. It's different because he's a tough person who has to interact with an 8-year-old kid. Or maybe it's the fact that the villain is like a satire of what a 1950s movie villain mob boss is. I know it's not good, but I just kind of like it. In fact, I'm actually going to go through all of Burt Reynolds' filmography. Because when you really get down to it, Burt has been on the screen for so long that there are actually so many Burt Reynolds movies out there that are either rare or hard to find, like Rent-A-Cop, Paternity, Shameless, 1985's Heat, Hotel, The Crew, and Rough Cut, to name a few. Being a Burt Reynolds fan, I can tell you this. There are 3 types of Burt Reynolds movies to look out for. First, there's the Burt having fun films, like Smoking the Bandit, The End, Semi-Tough, City Heat, Stroker Ace, and the Cannonball Run films, to name a few. These are movies where he's having fun being either an eccentric character with a huge ego, or a person who is just fun to be around. In these movies, he has a lot of charisma and class. Sometimes if somebody says something and he can't think of a response, he gives a subtle gesture of his face, and that's all you really need to know. Like, yeah, you said something stupid. I don't know how to respond to that. He has a lot of charm and class in these movies. You can't go wrong.
You've never covered yourself with Vaseline.
No, not unless I have third-degree burns, no.
You don't know what you're missing. I've got it all over.
Well, most of the time anyway. The second type is the Burt the Badass. Like Stick, Sharky's Machine, Malone, White Lightning, its sequel Gator, Seamus, These are the films in which he plays a cop, a private investigator, a sergeant, or someone who is trying to put crime in its place. He's almost like Clint Eastwood or Charles Bronson in that regard. And finally, there's the Burt the Human Being types of films. Deliverance, Boogie Nights, The Last Movie Star, Miami Love Affair, Best Friends, Starting Over. These are the performances that show that a man can make a few mistakes or get too into something, but they know for a fact that it doesn't stop them from what they do. They don't let their past define them. On the inside, they're human beings with flaws and weaknesses, but at the same time they know that they can be good people, or at least they try to be. Is there a fourth category? Well, there are the types of movies that star him and you had no idea he was even in those, like Deal, Pocket Listing, A Bunch of Amateurs, Striptease, and the Dukes of Hazzard movie. I mean, I haven't heard him say anything about those movies, whether or not he liked doing them, so I can't say if they were good or not. Anyway, most of all, he loved having fun. Regarding Smoking the Bandit and Deliverance, he loved doing those so much that he said those two films were the best films he'd ever done. In his memoir, he said this line about his life. He said that he always wanted to experience everything and, as he said, go down swinging. Well, so far, so good. Nobody had more fun than I did, and I think that's the best way to end it. I'm gonna cut this kind of short because I think there's been enough said about Burt Reynolds already, so I'm gonna try and not to repeat myself. Burt, if you're watching this from above, I hope I did a good job remembering you. So long, Bandit. The pathway is clear. You are now free to ride into the sunset.
I just go from place to place and do what I do best.
What's that?
Show off.